Let's talk about Gaza. Urgent aid en route to Gaza amid severe food crisis.
On the verge of starvation. A charity aid ship has now left Cyprus carrying nearly 200 tons of food. Now it could arrive as soon as tomorrow as the fighting continues there. And the Houthi rebels launch more attacks on cargo ships off Yemen. Chris Livesay has the story.
Houthi rebels strike again, vowing to escalate military operations during Ramadan in support of the oppressed Palestinian people, says a spokesman. 2 missiles failed to strike the cargo ship Pinocchio off the coast.
It is pretty wild that these, like, we went from the Houthis are just like, fuck around and find out. The Houthis are going to see the finding out part of the fuck around part to like consistent bombing in Sana'a to, okay, maybe we can't stop these guys from continuously taking pot shots at ships that actually still continue through the Red Sea and don't communicate with the Houthis at all on where they're taking their cargo.
Coast of Yemen. But repeated threats like these have disrupted global trade for months, drawing retaliation from the U.S. and Britain, who consider them an Iran-backed terror group and not the defenders of the people of Gaza. Now forced to celebrate the holy month of Ramadan, where shelter has been turned into rubble and surgical gloves into balloons.
Yeah, all these liberals are like, you're about to see why America doesn't. All these liberals were just fucking hitting the goddamn. This is why we don't have healthcare. Lol, line over and over again.
We didn't wish Ramadan to come under these conditions, says Muhammad Abu Matar. It has the taste of blood. In Jerusalem, during this time of prayer and fasting, scuffles have become routine over Israeli security restrictions on entering Muslim holy sites. Muslims are heading to the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. It's been a flashpoint in Ramadan's past, and this year, with the war in Gaza, tensions are boiling. These Palestinians in Jerusalem have just broken their fast. They can't eat during daylight. These Palestinians in Gaza can't eat.
I just want to show you this. I want to show you something very important here, okay? If you want to understand what our policy has been as like a deterrence, I guess, this very important moment from January 18 comes to mind.
Are the airstrikes in Yemen working?
He says, are the airstrikes in Yemen working?
Well, when you say working, are they stopping the Houthis? No. Are they
Biden says, no, they're not. Are they stopping the Houthis? No.
going to continue? Yes.
Are we going to continue? Yes. Yeah. In January, the Houthis are about to see why America doesn't have free healthcare. March 2024, have the Houthis become unstoppable? This is something that I keep repeating over and over again. It is the reason why throughout history, it has played out in the exact same fucking way over and over again. The side that has significantly more to lose is always going to lose out in the end because these are wars of attrition. That's it. The Houthis were already starving. They had withstood a genocide by the UAE and, more importantly than the UAE, Saudi Arabia for years and years. This is not conjecture. I'm not making this up. This is the American assessment, okay? Aiden Ross didn't land Tate in jail. Stop spreading misinformation yet again. Aiden Ross's leaks genuinely led to Andrew Tate being arrested. He has now since been released. I covered this earlier. There is nothing false about what I just said. Here he is coming out of jail, as a matter of fact. Why do you think this happened? Do you think he was in jail for no reason? The lawyers themselves on the defendant, on the side of the people in the UK that are defending their victims have literally pointed to the Aiden Ross clip as a reason. But of course, I do not expect tater tots to be smart or cognizant. These are, after all, the same people that thought that the court case was done months ago. Like when he was literally in prison, they were like, nah, he's not actually. He's not going to prison. It's pretty funny to think about like how dumb tater tots are, because a tater tot Aiden Ross, the tater tot Aiden Ross, is the reason why Andrew Tate was literally fucking arrested earlier today. Anyway, we'll cover that in a second. We're talking about big boy news right now, okay?
Because they're running out of food.
That was Chris Livesay from Jerusalem reporting.
So, before we get to Haiti, there are some key updates here. Number one, turns out a diplomatic source told Jerusalem Post that the Gaza maritime route was Netanyahu's idea. Wow. According to the source, on October 22nd, 2 weeks following the war's outbreak, Netanyahu discussed with President Biden the concept of delivering humanitarian aid to Gaza via the sea. Bitch, why don't you fucking deliver aid by not bombing the aid that's being delivered through the regular routes where you can actually deliver a shit ton of aid? It's incredible to me that the supposed concessions that Biden extracted still came from Netanyahu. Like, what the fuck? Now, Netanyahu is a liar, okay? As are many Israeli officials. They have routinely lied over and over again. They're very consistently liars. So maybe he's just lying here and it was actually Brandon's idea. I don't know. Maybe he's just trying to make Brandon look bad in the Western world, which he regularly does do. It does go along with that. So I don't know. I genuinely do not know if I can take this at face value, because Benjamin Netanyahu lies all the fucking time. Okay? The irony, of course, is that in order to build this fucking offshore pier, this temporary pier, Benjamin Netanyahu did allow trucks to go in, except not the type of sweetie saying Israelis are liars is actually an anti-Semitic trope. No, it is not. And don't even fucking make this joke right now, okay? Don't even try to bait me like that. Anyway, turns out we do have the capability of bringing in trucks into the Gaza Strip. It just the trucks that Benjamin Netanyahu is allowing into the Gaza Strip are the ones that are constructing the fucking pier. The objective is not to deliver food. The objective is to relieve international pressure. Maybe he also wants American troops on the ground. Biden keeps saying there will be no American troops on the ground. According to a source, on October 22nd, 2 weeks following the war's outbreak, Netanyahu discussed with President Biden the concept of delivering humanitarian aid to Gaza via the sea. It was a pre-outlined strategy all the way back on October 22nd. Then on October 21st, Prime Minister Netanyahu outlined a strategy to Cypriot President Nikos Christodoulides. In addition, the matter was revisited on January 19th during a dialogue between Prime Minister Netanyahu and the President of the United States, where Netanyahu proposed, according to the source, I want to suggest setting up a team to explore maritime supply through Cyprus after a thorough inspection of all goods. This source, close to the prime minister, insinuated that Biden was simply implementing a plan by Netanyahu, not actually initiating anything new. The source spoke with Jerusalem Post at a time of heightened diplomatic tensions between Biden and Netanyahu. I don't know. I don't know if this is real or not because, you know, both sides obviously are known for lying. But the number one liars are almost always on the Israeli side. The American side is basically repeating Israeli lies half the time. So I don't know. It could be real. It could have been Benjamin Netanyahu saying, like, this is a good way to relieve international pressure. Exactly. And maybe he didn't say anything this entire time because if he had chirped about how we should find mechanisms of delivering aid to the Palestinians on October 22nd, someone in the Knesset might have executed him. So maybe he recognizes the continuation of the ethnic cleansing campaign. Do you condemn the USA every goddamn day of my life? The source spoke with Jerusalem Post at a time of heightened diplomatic pressure. Biden made the headlines at his State of the Union address to Congress last Thursday when he announced that the U.S. military planned to build an emergency temporary port off Gaza coastline to help facilitate the entry of humanitarian aid into Gaza. He made the statement in light of the hunger crisis in Gaza and to underscore the U.S. commitment to helping Palestinian people during Israel's military campaign to destroy Hamas. This also does track with, like, Biden's experience here, where, like, the only time he is, like, even remotely considerate of Palestinians if he gets the go-ahead from Benjamin Netanyahu or the Israeli side in general. So that is actually the other reason why I'm saying, like, place. Hasan is a prison guard. Yeah, I have to make her lay on that thing instead of the ground because her laying on the ground is actually hurting her. Yet another instance where I know better. Just like when chat tells me to watch this, watch that, and sometimes their suggestions are fucking awful for the stream. She's not allowed on the ground because when she's on the ground, she gets blisters because her bones start rubbing on her elbows, and then those blisters turn into hot spots that she licks with an open wound. Yeah. Laying on solid ground can also cause major joint issues. My dog had to start expensive meds. Yes. That's it. This is pure COPE analysis. The new port is for Israel's new LNG offshore deposit access, the ones Egypt wanted. I know everybody keeps saying this. I don't know. I don't know I am not going to make these assertions without more evidence of the matter. It does provide a very neat real reason for something like this to occur, but I don't think that a port. God, she's so fucking cute. It's crazy. Sorry. I love her so much. Yeah, I'm looking at you. What? You embarrassed? Don't. She's like, okay, well, I can't get up. She's sassy. She's sassy pants. What are you looking at? She's so well behaved. I agree. What are you looking at? Keep eating your bone. Might be dumb, but maybe put a box fan under her bed, air cool that baby like a CPU worth a try. That bed is self-cooling. Anyway. The move was also viewed as a criticism of Netanyahu by the United States, with Biden stating in a speech on Thursday that Israel could and should do more to help Palestinians in Gaza. Years before the Gaza war, Israel Katz, now the foreign minister, had drawn up plans for a maritime route via Cyprus involving a floating island. The project was never executed, but he revived it after the war began on October 7th. Okay, that makes more sense. One of the complicating factors with a maritime route was the absence of a port in Gaza big enough to handle cargo ships. This way, they get to control a maritime route through Gaza. That makes sense. Israel has welcomed Biden's announcement of a military operation to build a temporary port. Yeah. Anyway, Senate Dems say blocking weapon shipments on the table if Israel invades Rafa. The remarks made by Chris Van Hollen come amid pressure from Democrats for President Joe Biden to take a tougher tag in his rift with Netanyahu over Israel's strategy in Gaza. It'd be real crazy if the congressional Democrats vote to veto this, but there is enough, or vote against it, but there's enough votes in Senate from Democrats and Republicans alike that will continue, and Biden will actually vote for it. Biden will actually sign it. Congressional action to block U.S. arms sales to Israel is certainly something that's on the table if Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu launches a large-scale invasion of Rafah, a top senator said Tuesday. It also does seem like senators are urging Biden to stop arming Israel, citing violation of U.S. aid law. Which, it is. A group of Democratic senators urged President Biden on Monday to stop providing offensive weapons to Israel for the war against Hamas until it lifts restrictions on U.S.-backed humanitarian aid going into Gaza. In a letter to Biden, Senator Bernie Sanders, independent of Vermont, and 7 Democrats argued that by continuing to arm Israel, Mr. Biden was violating the Foreign Assistance Act, which bars military support from going to any nation that restricts the delivery of humanitarian aid. This is true. They're like, hey, you can keep using the offensive weapons in Gaza to do the genocide, but just let the aid in. Here's an update on the Gaza hostage talks as well. We're going to move on from this after the update. Barak Ravid says, Israeli officials claim that in recent days, Israel received indications from Qatari and Egyptian mediators that point to shifts among Hamas's leadership that may lead within days to progress that will allow moving to serious negotiations on a deal. A senior Israeli official said that Qatar and Egypt had significantly increased their pressure on Hamas, including threats from Qatar to expel senior Hamas officials from Doha, which was confirming a report in the Wall Street Journal, even though the Wall Street Journal has shown itself to be unreliable throughout this entire process. The Israeli official said, Hamas understands that the ball is in their court. We see pressure that did not exist before and hope that it will show results. There is relatively more optimism than a few days ago. I think this reframes the entire conversation the conversation is shifted directly off of the hands of Israel in this circumstance, because Hamas's original conditions for hostage negotiations was absolutely valid and decent and actually would play well if the Western media ever fucking showed it. It was a step-by-step push. It was a step-by-step push towards a permanent ceasefire. I'm going to change Andrew Tate gets, Aiden Ross gets Andrew Tate arrested. And then in parentheses, he's now released. Okay. There you go. So that all the people that don't chirp at me will no longer chirp at me. The Israeli officials said Hamas understands the ball's in their court. Israeli officials emphasized that Israel is still waiting on an official answer from Hamas to see if the organization does indeed change direction and is ready to move for more serious negotiations based on the Paris framework. Qatar and Egypt told Israel they will expect to receive such an answer in the next 2 days. In a few days, we will know where this is going. If there's an answer from Hamas, it will be the beginning of negotiations. The Israeli official said, if that's the case, we will sit and hold internal discussions to decide what we are ready for and what we are not. In any case, we want the next meeting with the mediators to be a serious one for negotiations on the details of the agreement.